It's midnight and you're tuned in to Nightline with me, Liyana Hassanel. The top stories. Malaysia urges ASEAN member states to remain united amid intensifying global power rivalries. And sanctions over heritage players. FIFA unlikely to overturn decision, says TMJ. ASEAN has been urged to remain firm and united as it navigates global challenges, including the intensifying rivalry between major powers. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Mohamad Hassan said the region's growing recognition on the world stage demonstrates that ASEAN is stronger when its member states stand and act together as one. Speaking while chairing the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in Kuala Lumpur on Saturday, Mohamad warned his regional counterparts that ASEAN's space for neutrality and centrality is shrinking as competition among global powers intensifies to multiple fronts, from trade and technology to security.
As I said at the beginning of Malaysia's stewardship of ASEAN, we must continue to act as the speakers and not the spoken for. This will be ASEAN's most pressing task in the uncertain years that lie ahead.
He added that ASEAN now stands at a crossroads as the international landscape is increasingly shaped by divisions and conflicting interests rather than consensus. He also underscored that ASEAN solidarity is essential to safeguarding the bloc's strategic autonomy and maintaining its role as the region's principal platform for dialogue and cooperation. Upholding the ASEAN way, he said, is vital as the bloc navigates an increasingly complex and shifting geopolitical landscape. At the same meeting, Mohamad said ASEAN welcomes efforts to establish a cessation of violence in Gaza, which is the first phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. He also said ongoing efforts must ultimately lead to lasting freedom for the Palestinian people and the establishment of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state. Mohamad noted that over the past 2 years, the world has witnessed ongoing suffering and brutality, with Palestinians losing their lives, being displaced on a massive scale, and continuing to face deep uncertainty.
ASEAN welcomes efforts to establish a cessation of violence in Gaza in the first phase of President Trump's comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict.
The minister pointed out that international law and the global order have been under heavy strain in recent years, and ASEAN must not turn a blind eye to conflicts beyond its waters while it continues to address the challenges posed within the region. On another matter, Mohamad emphasized that the peace process in Myanmar must be led by its own people, with ASEAN providing support. He cautioned that a prolonged crisis in Myanmar would have repercussions across the region, including increased cross-border crime, a surge in refugees, and broader socio-economic instability among neighboring ASEAN nations. He also said that efforts to resolve issues in the South China Sea must be driven through open, yet firm and coordinated engagement. Malaysia, he added, remains committed to advancing the region's collective interests in its role as ASEAN country coordinator for China, a position it will hold until July 2027. Meanwhile, ASEAN under Malaysia's chairmanship marked a historic milestone on Saturday by effectively marking Timor-Leste's full admission as the bloc's 11th member state. The session further reinforces ASEAN's role as an inclusive, resilient organization, prepared for the future through cooperation and shared progress. During a ceremony on Saturday, Timor-Leste's Foreign Minister Bendito Freitas officially deposited the country's instruments of accession to the ASEAN Charter and the Treaty on the Southeast Asia Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone. The documents were handed over to ASEAN Secretary General Dr. Kau Him Horn and witnessed by Malaysia's Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Mohamad Hassan.
We thank you very much for all ASEAN state members who have contributed a lot for us so far, and this will give us more a stronger voice in our politics, in diplomacy and foreign affairs. So we are becoming more together as a region, as a family of ASEAN. Thank you.
In the meantime, Mohamad revealed that the ASEAN extradition treaty is expected to be signed next month, marking a significant milestone in strengthening regional cooperation to combat transnational crime. The announcement was made by the foreign minister during the ASEAN Political Security Community Council meeting, underscoring ASEAN's commitment to enhance legal coordination and justice systems among member states. Mohamad said the treaty aims to bolster the ability of member nations to address cross-border crime more effectively through harmonized legal frameworks and stronger judicial collaboration.
Under the legal scope, the ASEAN law ministers committed to promoting arbitration and mediation mechanisms aligned with international standards to support regional economic integration.
He added Malaysia remains deeply concerned over the far-reaching implications of complex security issues that affect citizen safety in ASEAN member countries and pose direct threats to the region's economic resilience and national security. He added ASEAN has also established the ASEAN Prosecutors, Attorneys General Meeting or APAGM, to strengthen cooperation and coordination in prosecution matters and the fight against transnational crimes. Now, the Philippines, which will assume the ASEAN chairmanship in 2026, has pledged to continue the diplomatic achievements and policies spearheaded by Malaysia this year. In an interview with TV3, Philippine Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Pilazaro stressed that Manila aims to strengthen the existing successes led by Malaysia in implementing ASEAN's regional agenda.
And we thank Malaysia for what they have, the efforts that they have done, and we can only thank and continue. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We have to continue what has been done, what has been achieved.
Maria also reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to advancing ASEAN's collective efforts in addressing key geopolitical and economic challenges across the region. Meanwhile, Finland has officially deepened its ties with ASEAN through its accession to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, TAC, bringing the total number of signatories to 58 countries. The signing was hailed as a bridge between Southeast Asia and Europe and marked a major milestone in ASEAN relations. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan said the TAC remains a moral compass that continues to guide regional diplomacy through mutual respect, non-interference and peaceful coexistence. Finland's Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen reaffirmed her country's commitment to dialogue, trust building and multilateralism, calling the TAC a testament to ASEAN's role as a stabilizing force in a time of global uncertainty. She added Finland aims to enhance cooperation with ASEAN in education, digital transformation, tackling climate change and advancing the circular and blue economies. Since its inception in 1976, the TAC has been the bedrock of ASEAN's approach to peaceful coexistence. Malaysia and South Africa have agreed to strengthen cooperation in championing global peace and opposing the oppression of the Palestinian people, in line with the shared commitment of both nations to act as moral voices of the global South. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim emphasized that the relationship between both countries is not merely grounded in diplomacy, but rooted in universal humanitarian values, opposing any form of oppression and upholding justice for all. On Saturday, South African President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, who was in Malaysia for the 47th ASEAN Summit, was received by Anwar and accorded a ceremonial welcome at Perdana Square, Perdana Putra Complex in Putrajaya. Both leaders then held a bilateral meeting during which they agreed to broaden cooperation in several strategic sectors, including semiconductors, agriculture and defense. Speaking at a joint media conference later, Anwar praised Ramaphosa's strong and unwavering advocacy for the people of Gaza.
To Gaza, they are a very prominent player in the Hague Initiative, in the ICC, and of course on behalf of Malaysian generally, I must also express my profound gratitude for this courage to defend what is right.
At the same time, Ramaphosa expressed gratitude to Malaysia for its strong backing of South Africa's move to bring the Gaza case before the International Court of Justice.
We are deeply grateful for the support that you have given to South Africa, as South Africa demonstrated its support for the people of Palestine. As you correctly said during our bilateral meeting, our support for Palestine, much as it has been risky and fraught with a lot of opposition, but we thank you for acknowledging that it was a courageous move on our part.
Ramaphosa also invited Anwar to make a state visit to South Africa next year, describing it as an opportunity to strengthen the long-standing friendship and cooperation between the two countries. Earlier, Anwar stressed that President of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's visit to Malaysia is seen as a symbol of solidarity between the two nations, both of which share common values in advocating for the welfare of the people and in promoting global justice. He added the influential leader's presence, in conjunction with the 47th ASEAN Summit, also marks a new chapter in bilateral relations between both countries. Lula's arrival, accompanied by his wife Janja Lula da Silva at the Perdana Putra complex earlier on Saturday, was greeted by Anwar and his wife, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Aziza Wan Ismail. The Brazilian president was then accorded an official welcoming ceremony at Perdana Square, before proceeding to a bilateral meeting with Anwar, which focused on cooperation in the areas of trade, investment, energy, education and research. Anwar and Lula also witnessed the exchange of 5 memoranda of understanding relating to the semiconductor industry, as well as science, technology and innovation, and collaboration between think tanks. At the subsequent joint media conference, Anwar also expressed his appreciation to Lula for his commitment in addressing humanitarian and environmental issues at the global level.
President Lula da Silva, you remain consistent, not only for Brazil, but also your articulation of foreign policy issues, from the atrocities and genocide in Gaza to the issues affecting climate change.
Anwar also expressed his admiration for the Brazilian president's steadfast stance in championing the rights of the poor and marginalized, as well as his courage in upholding the principles of justice and human dignity. At the same media conference, Lula emphasized that the ongoing global conflicts stem from the actions of certain United Nations Security Council member states that have acted without international consensus. He also criticized the world's growing acceptance of brutality as something commonplace, including the prolonged suffering of Palestinians in Gaza and the war in Ukraine.
To the Prime Minister Ibrahim, that we have the possibility to change the world, to make things improve, to make it better, and to make that humanism is not defeated by its opponents.
Tunku Mahkota Ismail Sultan Ibrahim believes FIFA is unlikely to overturn its decision to sanction the national team over the eligibility of 7 heritage players. However, the region of Johor remains hopeful that the governing body will opt for more lenient punishment. Speaking at a media conference on Saturday, Tunku Mahkota Ismail, who has been advising the Football Association of Malaysia, FAM, on the national team project, said the issue arose from administrative technicalities rather than document falsification, urging calm and collective responsibility within the association.
Ini juga saya ingin mengatakan, saya rasa FIFA tak akan tukar dia punya keputusan. Cuma kalau dia tukar pun mungkin diringankan sikitlah hukuman tersebut. Kemungkinan. I think dia orang akan fine Football Association of Malaysia, maybe national team as well, ataupun deduction of point, and ban pemain-pemain tersebut.
Tunku Mahkota Ismail also voiced disagreement over the suspension of FAM General Secretary Datuk Nur Azman Rahman, stressing that those involved must take responsibility for the sanctions imposed by FIFA. On October 6th, FIFA released full details of its disciplinary decision against FAM and the 7 heritage players: Gabriel Palmero, Facundo Garces, Rodrigo Holgado, Emmanuel Machuca, Joao Figueiredo, John Irazabal, and Hector Havel, after finding discrepancies in the original registration documents. It also fined FAM and the players a total of nearly 2 million ringgit. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim held a meeting with FIFA President Gianni Infantino. The discussion centered on strengthening the football ecosystem in Malaysia and the ASEAN region, including initiatives such as the FIFA Arena project, which is expected to serve as a catalyst for developing local talent and enhancing national football infrastructure. Anwar and Infantino also touched on the ASEAN FIFA Football Development Agreement, describing it as a strategic step towards positioning the region as a respected force in global football. The meeting underscores Malaysia's commitment to leveraging international partnerships to elevate the standard of football domestically and across Southeast Asia. Northern states flood updates after this breather.
Cinta, hanyakah cinta yang seseorang butuhkan? Mungkinkah semua tanya?
Mama ni di Sembilan, daerah Gemencih saja yang popular. Konon cara kita boleh makan. Anak cucu makcik kalau balik, dia tanya, boleh mama nak masak tak? Kalau dia makan, sampai 4-5 kotor lah yang dia makan.
IWK melepaskan hampir 6,500 juta liter sehari. Cuba bayangkan kalau tidak dirawat, impak negatif kepada alam sekitar lah.
Teknologi lanjutan menggunakan UF dan RO menghasilkan air RO quality.
Bersamamu kali ini menyelami kisah Muhammad Hilmi Abdul Ghani, 47 tahun, yang mengalami kesempitan hidup.
Sebelum tu dia cuma sakit dada, dia ingatkan biasa je lah, tapi tak pernah pergi cek. Lepas tu nanti kena lagi sakit dada, berpeluh apa semua.
Sebab saya tak sanggup tengok bila awak orang hidup dalam keadaan tak tentu arah, tak ada kerja. Yelah.
Sekarang kan tengah musim hujan dan banjir. Jika anda tidak mampu menyelamatkan masa banjir, carilah bantuan daripada pihak yang pakar dalam kerja menyelamat. Jangan bahayakan diri anda. Fikir sebelum bertindak. Anda mampu menyelamatkan nyawa.
Tanyalah Ustaz minggu ini. Isnin, ujian populariti. Selasa, adab kian terhakis. Rabu, detik hancurnya alam. Khamis, sebaik-baik umat. Jumaat, kiasan cinta. Sabtu, khurafat dalam masyarakat. Ahad, nilai persaudaraan. Tanyalah Ustaz, biar tahu jangan keliru di TV3 dan TV9. Stream juga melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. The number of flood evacuees at relief centres in Perak and Pulau Pinang continued to rise on Saturday evening, while Kedah recorded a decrease. Perak now shelters 2,963 evacuees compared to 2,922 individuals in the morning. All 28 relief centres opened earlier are still active across the state. Pulau Pinang's evacuee count slightly increased to 1,052 people on Saturday evening, from 1,026 individuals earlier in the day. The state maintains 7 relief centres across 3 districts. Meanwhile, Kedah reported a decrease from 1,858 people on Saturday morning down to 1,562 people later in the day. 15 centres remain operational across Kulim, Baling, Pokok Sena and Pendang districts, with Pendang becoming the newest affected area. A businessman with the title Dato was among 8 individuals remanded to assist in investigations into a fight in Jirte, Terengganu, which had been live-streamed and subsequently went viral on social media. Besut District Police Chief Superintendent Azamuddin Ahmad said all the suspects aged between 21 and 40 were arrested on Friday when they turned up to have their statements recorded at the district police headquarters. The alleged victim, a 36-year-old businessman who lodged a police report over the incident, was also detained to assist in the investigation. They were brought to the Kuala Terengganu Magistrates Court for remand proceedings on Saturday. According to the authorities, the incident occurred around 11 p.m. on Thursday in front of a house in Jirte. The complainant had gone to the house of one of the suspects to discuss a misunderstanding. The man was told to enter the house, but he refused, and a scuffle broke out when the complainant's phone was taken by one of the suspect's family members. The complainant sustained injuries to several parts of his body during the altercation, and his car was also damaged. The case is being investigated under the Penal Code for rioting and committing mischief. In Pulau Pinang, 3 Nepalese nationals suspected of being involved in the double murder case in Juru have been remanded for 7 days. The remand order until October 31st was issued by Magistrate Nurul Rashidah Muhammad Akid at the Bukit Mertajam Magistrates Court on Saturday to assist police investigations into the case under Section 302 of the Penal Code. The suspects comprised a 35-year-old man, who is the main suspect, his 40-year-old brother, and their 28-year-old acquaintance. It is understood that the main suspect was arrested at the Immigration Department office in Selangor, while the other 2 were detained in Bukit Tengah. All 3 were allegedly attempting to flee the country. Meanwhile, the husband of the victim was released on court bail on Saturday after his remand period ended. The 57-year-old security guard and another 45-year-old acquaintance of the victim were each granted bail of 5,000 ringgit with 2 sureties. On October 18th, Saria Cik Hin, aged 51, and her adopted daughter Nur Afrina Alicia Abdul Rahim, aged 11, were found dead in their rented home in Kampung Sekolah, Juru. The woman's body was discovered in the kitchen with her neck almost severed, while the child was found face down and covered in blood on the upper floor. Thailand's former queen passes away. The details when Nightline returns.
Bersamamu kali ini menyelami kisah Muhammad Hilmi Abdul Ghani, 47 tahun, yang mengalami kesempitan hidup.
Sebelum tu dia cuma sakit dada, dia ingatkan biasa je lah tapi tak pernah pergi cek. Lepas tu nanti kena lagi sakit dada, berpeluh apa semua.
Sebab saya tak sanggup tengok bila awak orang hidup dalam keadaan tak tentu arah, tak ada kerja. Yelah.
Tanyalah Ustaz minggu ini, Isnin, ujian populariti. Selasa, adab kian terhagis. Rabu, detik hancurnya alam. Khamis, sebaik-baik umat. Jumaat, hiasan cinta. Sabtu, khurafat dalam masyarakat. Ahad, nilai persaudaraan. Tanyalah Ustaz, biar tahu jangan keliru di TV3 dan TV9. Stream juga melalui Tonton.
Jalan-jalan, cari makan.
Gendang-gendut tali kecapi. Cari kari, dapat hadiah lagi.
Memang puas hati.
Misi menangi kari dah bermula. Tak sabarnya nak menang.
Kari, kari, kari.
Nak tahu syarat-syarat penyertaan? Senang je. Pergi ke laman media sosial TV3 Malaysia untuk maklumat lanjut.
Sur, padu.
Dan saksikan Jalan-Jalan Cari Makan setiap Ahad 11.30 pagi di TV3 atau stream juga melalui Tonton untuk peluang menang hadiah. Kari penuh rasa, hadiah penuh gaya.
Memang betul-betul bau hanyut. Memang penuh dengan darah lah.
Seorang lelaki warga emas mengaku bersalah di Mahkamah Tinggi Ipoh atas pertuduhan membunuh abang dan kakak iparnya 2 tahun lalu.
Tertuduh sempat mencapai kapak untuk mencederakan kedua-dua mangsa ini.
Dia libat kan? Kecederaan tu dia merata-rata.
Yang tragiklah apabila pembunuhan tu melibatkan saudara kandung dan juga isteri kepada abang sendiri.
News from the foreign front. The mother of Thailand's King Maha Vajiralongkorn, Queen Sirikit, passed away on Friday. She was 93. According to the Thai Royal Household Bureau, she breathed her last peacefully in a Bangkok hospital at 9:21 p.m. local time on Friday. She had suffered several illnesses while in hospital since 2019, including a blood infection this month. Sirkit's body will lie in a state at the Grand Palace's Dusit Thorn Hall in Bangkok. A mourning period of 1 year has been declared for members of the royal family and household. Sirkit was married to King Bhumiporn Adulyadet, who died in 2016 after 7 decades on the throne. A coalition of 41 aid organizations has urged Israel to ease restrictions on humanitarian aid entering the devastated Gaza Strip, warning that preventable deaths will rise if the blockade continues. In a joint statement, 41 agencies reported that between 10th and 21st October 2025, 17 international NGOs were denied permission to deliver essential aid into Gaza. The statement said 94% of Israel's aid rejections during this period targeted INGOs. Fewer than 100 UN and partner aid trucks have entered Gaza daily since the ceasefire began, well below the 600 per day promised under a plan brokered by US President Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Gaza's health ministry reports at least 93 people killed in Israeli attacks since the October 10th ceasefire began. Meanwhile, the main Palestinian political factions, including Hamas, said on Friday they had agreed that an independent committee of technocrats would take over the running of post-war Gaza. A joint statement on the Hamas website said the groups agreed in a Cairo meeting to hand over Gaza's administration to a temporary Palestinian committee of independent technocrats, which will manage daily affairs and basic services in coordination with Arab states and international institutions. It also called for a meeting of all groups to agree on a national strategy and revive the Palestine Liberation Organization as the sole representative of the Palestinian people. In the meantime, delegations from Hamas and Fatah reportedly met in Cairo to discuss the second phase of a US-backed ceasefire plan in Gaza. On to sports now. The 2025 Petronas Malaysia Grand Prix. Young national rider Hakim Danish Ramli placed himself in a good position to fight for the points after qualifying 14th in Moto3 on Saturday. The 18-year-old rider competing on a wild card clocked a decent 2 minutes 11.487 seconds to place 14th in the fifth row. Leopard Racing rider David Almansa took first place after clocking 2 seconds 9.846 seconds, followed by Honda Team Asia rider Tayo Furusato 2 minutes 9.940 seconds. 2025 season champion Jose Antonio Rueda, representing Red Bull KTM Aho, took third place. Meanwhile, two national wildcard riders in the Moto2 class, Azroy Hakim Anwar and Muhammad Helmi Azman from Petronas Mi Racing RW, will start the race in 29th and last place, respectively. Turning to badminton, the 2025 French Open. World number 2 Aaron Chia and So Woo Yik are the last Malaysians standing at the Super 750 tournament after all their teammates crashed out in the quarterfinals. The two-time Olympic bronze medalists survived a scare against Indonesia's Sabar Karyaman Gutama and Moreza Pahlavi Isfahani, edging them 21-19, 16-21, 21-19 to keep Malaysia's hopes alive in Rennes. Aaron and Woo Yik, who reached their first French Open semi-final since 2021, will face Indonesian duo Fajar Alfian and Muhammad Rian Ardianto for a spot in the final. Elsewhere, Man Wei Chang, T Kai Woon pushed world number 1 Kim Won Ho, Seo Seung Jae to a rubber set but fell short. while Gozafe Nur Izzuddin Rumsani were also narrowly defeated by Denmark's Kim Astrup Anderskar Ramussen. In the women's doubles, Buletin and Mtina saw their title hopes dashed after losing 16-21, 16-21 to China's Olympic champions Chen Qingchen and Jia Yifan, who sealed their dominance in the rivalry 9-1. Moving on to football, the Super League. 3 matches lit up Saturday night. Kuching City FC were held to a 1-1 draw by Penang FC, while Negeri Sembilan FC cruised past PDRM FC 2-0. At the Sultan Ibrahim Stadium, Johor Darul Ta'zim proved once again they're in a league of their own, thrashing Brunei DPMM FC 10-0. Buxton De Silva was on fire, scoring 4 goals, including a first-half hat-trick inside 37 minutes. Oscar Arribas made it 4 before the break, with Manuel Hidalgo, Arif Aiman Muhammad Hanapi, and substitutes Jairo and Romel Morales adding to the tally. An own goal from Brunei's Yura Indra completed the 10-0 rout, JDT's biggest win of the season. The defending champions sit comfortably on top with 24 points after 8 matches, while Brunei remain 10th with just 4. And that concludes Nightline this time around. Before we wrap up, let's take a glimpse of the vibrant atmosphere at the 2025 International Indoor Kite Championships in Shandong, China, featuring participants from 14 countries, including Malaysia. With that, I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for watching, and be well, Malaysia.